Broadcasting from deep in the Eublepharis galaxy, on a small planet called Geckonia, east of the Albino Hills and south of the raging Leucistic River, comes the one, the only Gecko Nation Radio.
The one, the only, folks. Welcome to another edition of Gecko Nation Radio. Today is December 7th, 2014, and tonight we're going to be doing a show all about rack building, and not just about ordinary racks. We're going to talk about the best, absolute best racks that are being built today, and there are several sources for the best racks, and Paul Edwards from Protek Caging is making phenomenal racks, and he's making some really interesting innovations that you don't normally see. So I'm proud to have him on the show tonight, and let's go ahead and grab our co-host, Mr. Tim Walton from Slice of the Jungle. Tim, you are live on Gecko Nation Radio.
What's going on, Dave? How are you?
I'm doing good. I got a little bit of the sniffles tonight. I was working down in the gecko room and sorting through my worms and stuff, and whenever that happens, even with the masks that I wear, I still, it kind of gets in the air a little bit. And, I'm allergic. I got a little bit of an allergy going on, but I'm all right for the most part.
It's what you got to go through to deal with your addiction. Are you there? Did I lose you?
Yeah, no, I'm here. The button hit the mute for some reason. I was saying, we suffer for our animals, and it's like, some of us suffer more than others. Those of us that have this allergy to insects and worms and roaches, we really have a tough time with this. I have just bought not too long ago a $400 air filtration system. It works pretty good, but when you have the bad allergy, it's it only does so much. So, but I don't know. I guess it's the struggle that is the experience. So it wouldn't be worth it if it was easy, I think, right? Isn't that how life works?
I think it's just what we do for our addictions.
Yeah, I know. Well, it is what it is. How's everything going with you?
It's busy. I unfortunately the other night in the rainstorm, I came home and I had food in my car, so I left the doors open for a couple minutes to try to air out the car, and I didn't realize it, but I had the Herpetoculture of Leopard Geckos, my Ron Tremper book, in the back pocket of the one of the seats, and I didn't realize it, but it got wet, so it's a little beat up, but I was able to save it.
Oh no, is that the original one? That's his first book, right?
I don't know which one you consider the first.
Well, the first one is the Herpetoculture of Leopard Geckos. The second is Leopard Geckos: The Next Generations. Right?
Well, yes. So in that case, the first one, but he also worked with Philippe de Vaugelet on his first leopard gecko book.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
that old one. So I'm not really sure how. We got to ask him about that. How he was involved. How much he was involved with that book.
Well, I saw on Amazon one time there was a little bit of a stir for a while back where people were trying to find the original Herpetoculture Leopard Gecko book that was authored by Ron Tremper and Philippe, and nobody could find the original one, and I think it's like 10 years old now, I believe. And there was somebody posted one from Europe on Amazon, and they posted it for like $400 or $500, and I think somebody actually bought it. Which is, you know what? I wasn't surprised that somebody would buy it, because if you take this seriously, that's one of those coveted collector's item type of things that just goes along with a leopard gecko collection.
Yep. I'm sorry. The one I was talking about was the general care and maintenance of leopard geckos. I thought that Ron had had done something for it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just Philippe's book.
Yeah, it may just be Philippe's. I collected all those too when I was a kid. I have a whole stack of those. Those are collector's items now too, I believe. We should really try to get Philippe on the show. I know we both tried to contact him. He can be tough to get a hold of, but that would be awesome if we could get him as a guest. But yeah, I saw that when I saw that the old Tremper book went for so much money, I was like, oh, maybe it's not a bad idea to invest in a bunch of copies of this new book. Eventually, it'll be out of print, which it is now. It's out of print. So yeah, I stockpiled a bunch of copies, and maybe in 10 years I'll sell them for $500 on Amazon. Make a few bucks. We'll see. If not, maybe I'll just I don't know, give away as prizes or something in the future. Who knows? But yeah, I saw it coming, and I was like, let me grab some of these. But
so how was the show yesterday?
The Hamburg show, yeah, it was good. It was interesting. It didn't have the good turnout that I expected. You know, Hamburg kind of hard. It's a hard show to predict. Usually, the White Plains show definitely gets the crowd that has money, that wants good stuff. And Hamburg is kind of like, you know, people are always looking for deals, and they're not really interested in the best genetics, and they just want something to take home, and they don't, you know, they want to spend like $20. So I don't usually bring a lot of my really nice stuff to Hamburg. So, and I wish I did, because this time I did sell a couple of my higher end geckos, and I wish I had more of the higher end. None of the really cheap stuff that I brought sold, but the high end stuff sold. So you figure that out, and it's just weird. But in New York, you know, it's more steady and more predictable. I kind of know what I'm going to come home with, and you know, it's easier to calculate. But it was a good show. It rained, so it wasn't super hot in there, and usually it's in the summertime it's just like 115 degrees. I mean, there's no air conditioning, and it's all body heat, and perfect environment for somebody with claustrophobia and, you know, and just gets nervous in crowds like I do. Yeah, it's crazy. But we had a good time.
With the popularity of that show, I'm surprised they haven't upgraded the venue.
I know, right? It could be so much better and different. But you know what? I was talking to the promoter, and she was like, you know, people in the past we thought about doing that. And I think she said she even tried it once. But people are so used to where it is. I mean, it's been at that same building all these years, and you know, it kind of threw everybody off when they tried to move it. And I think they have a good deal going with the people that run the building and everything. And it's just like, just put some air conditioning there already.
Yeah. How much money do they save not splurging for air conditioning?
Yeah, really. But you know what? It would make the show so much more comfortable, especially for us vendors that gotta, you know, be there all day. And I mean, I still like the show. It's a half hour from my house. Hey, shout out to Gerard. Got to meet Gerard Gary from Facebook buddy. Picked up a gecko that I had waiting for him. And saw a few other people, too, that we normally see in the group and on Facebook. So, what's up, Gerard? Thanks for tuning in tonight. And the chat room's filling up nice. Looks good. Everybody's hanging out. So I don't know, Tim. Next weekend we got a big show planned, right? What's going on next weekend?
We have our holiday/late anniversary show.
Right. We're going to be celebrating a year on the air, folks. A whole year, Gecko Nation Radio. And, wow, the show has grown and done so well in that time. And if it keeps going the way it is, I don't know. Sky's the limit. But what we're thinking of doing next week is I think we'll have like a bunch of giveaways and prizes. But also I'm going to be making some phone calls this week and trying to get our sponsors and some of our favorite guests to call in and wish us well and spread some holiday cheer maybe, you know. And I think it'll be a fun show. So people listening in tonight, think about calling in and, you know, saying hi next weekend. So we'll have the lines open the entire show. So, yeah, because we never really did a year anniversary show. Our year was in, I think it was October, actually. So just never really put something like that together, so that would be a good idea. But yeah, all right. Well, you know what, Tim? We want to one of the whole points to this show is education, of course. And a lot of people that tune into the show are a lot of new people that we sign up and we recruit and tell about the show. And a lot of these people are enthusiastic. They really want to learn as much as they can about the reptile community, the gecko community. And what's the best place to send them to learn all that great info?
GeckoForums.net.
That's right. Excellent. That's right, folks. Check out GeckoForums.net. Gecko Forums is just a wealth of knowledge. It's been going for since 2006 now, and especially for gecko enthusiasts. If you're serious about breeding and you're serious about lineage and where the best genetics come from, and a big part of breeding is genetic purity and stuff like that, keeping lines straight, keeping them, knowing which breeders have the right morphs to get if you're looking for high-end stuff and whatnot. That's your place to go, and check out into that history there. You'll be surprised. There's a lot of good drama if you like that too. Back in the day, a lot of people fighting back and forth if you like that. But it's interesting.
Well, what I like to plug about it is that you can search and find very knowledgeable people posting factual information, and even look into a little bit of the person's background who's posting. And if you see something that you like or that you want to follow up on later, it's very easy to go back and find it. It's the opposite of Facebook in those regards, where whether it's good or bad information, it's gone tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, there is a feature where you can save certain posts, and I just actually found out about that recently on Facebook, but I don't know. I mean, how involved on Facebook can you really be where you got to actually think about things like that, save things? I mean, some people save these drama posts and then repost them and whatnot and stir it all up again. But it's interesting. I don't know. I'd like to see a shift away from Facebook. I really would. I really think Facebook is kind of making the community stagnate a bit and keeping us locked in this negative cycle. And it's hard to really get a good perception of what's really going on in the community if we just focused on Facebook stuff. So hopefully in the future we can transition people away from Facebook more. And I speak for myself too, because I'm stuck on Facebook too, because I don't know, it's like a lot of us do our sales on Facebook, and we do a lot of our communicating with other people because it's easy. But I don't know. I don't know if it's all that positive. What do you think about Facebook then?
I think it's got its good points and its bad points, but in terms of for newcomers that really want to learn and get involved and learn get off on the right foot, there's nothing better than getting on the forums and finding that good information out and not having to worry about who is responding to them and how knowledgeable those people are that are responding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, another thing, folks, Gecko Nation Radio would not be possible without our amazing sponsors, and our sponsor products are sincere. These people are the best at what they do. And one of the things with Gecko Nation Radio is we try to advise you on the best breeders, the best products to use, the safest stuff, of course. And these plugs you're about to hear are no exception. Check them out and patronize them and mention Gecko Nation Radio. They'll hook you up.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David Fine Gecko's creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. Gecko Nation Radio is sponsored by Reptiles Express is the absolute best live animal shipping company with great low rates. Debbie is the queen of customer service and will make sure your precious cargo gets to where it needs to. They also have a wide array of shipping supplies from deli cups, snake bags, heat packs, and more. Visit reptilesexpress.com and become a member today. Longhorn Geckos is a father and son collaboration. Daryl and Cade Burton specialize in the best Super Tangelos, Pastel Raptors, White and Yellows, and really nice wild types. Follow them on Facebook at Longhorn Geckos and on their new website coming soon. Ohio Gecko is famous for amazing tangerines, snows, and other very unique leopard gecko projects. Thad also has some incredible fat tail morphs available from stingers to starbursts. Visit him online at ohiogecko.com and at expos in the Northeast. He is also the owner of geckoforums.net. Dale's Bearded Dragons is your one-stop source for any reptile supply products that you may need, from Exoterra, Zoomed, Rapashi, Repcal, Fluker, and much, much more, and all at 20 to 50% cheaper than your local pet store or big chain pet store. They are also the biggest reptile supply distributor at most of the Northeast expos. Contact them directly online at dalesbeardeddragons.com or message me on Facebook and I'll put you in touch with the owner.
All right, folks, we are back, and keep in mind, AV Dragons has a standard 5% off coupon code for Gecko Nation Radio listeners. The code is GECKO, all in caps. Use it at checkout for their dubia roaches. They have the best dubia around. All right, Tim, what do you say we go ahead and bring on our guest, Mr. Paul Edwards from Protek Aging?
Let's bring him on.
All right. Paul, you are live on Gecko Nation Radio.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. How you guys doing tonight?
Thanks. Doing great. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, you bet.
Well, Paul, we usually start our shows getting to know our guests a little bit, especially if they're a first-time guest like yourself. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your history in herpetoculture, how you got started, and what basically, helped you to get bit by the bug, so to speak.
Well, that happened a long time ago. I'm not only the first. This is the first time not only on your show, it's the first time on any show. So it's the first for
wow.
me.
Congratulations.
For sure. I'm a typical guy that as a kid was really just super, super, super fascinated with animals. Just really, really keen interest on reptiles. And when I was in the third grade, my mom bought me a boa constrictor from the pet shop. Local
what a cool
pet
mom.
shop. Yeah, no kidding. I had to rally for that for months and months. But yeah, man, I was like the only kid in my school with an actual boa constrictor. I was like the cool guy on campus. And it just grew from there. I mean, I did have a good mom. I mean, she helped me do some science fairs at school. I don't know. They probably don't do them anymore, but everybody had a science project, and the whole school came down and looked at it on one day when everybody was done with theirs. And mine was, I built this, with my mom's help, I built an aquarium with a bunch of pieces of glass and a bunch of colored electrical tape. And she borrowed a desert iguana from some woman who had a bunch of them. And this was back when I lived in San Diego. And that was kind of like my first thing. That another connection through my mother who knew somebody who worked at a university and got me a rosy boa for free when I was a kid. So, I mean, all kinds of things like that. But I grew up in Southern California, so it was really good herb type country. And when I was 15, I moved to Omaha, Nebraska, and spent a quarter century there. And I really learned a lot about breeding there. Because for me, it was either going to be reptiles or music, because I was a musician at the time. And I went towards music for a long time. And one day in Omaha, I ran into somebody that was connected with this newly forming herpetological society, and that was the Nebraska Herpetological Society. And I started going to the herb clubs and really got back into it and formed a good relationship with a guy that lived in a nearby city who was a much further advanced herper than I was. And I learned just a ton from him. So, I mean, that's one thing I know she recommended, or you were talking about maybe there's a lot of newcomers coming to this radio show. And I tell you, there's one thing, I've been keeping reptiles for over 50 years. And if there's one thing that I really recommend people do is get to know people, if you're lucky enough to have a good herb society. If not, get to know somebody close to you that is your superior, that is better at keeping reptiles than you are, because you will learn from them tremendously.
Yeah, that's a good point. We try to do our best here, Paul. Like, bringing the best information, most accurate, most up to date. I mean, that's something we definitely strive for, and I definitely think we're leading in a lot of areas. And we want to make a lot of episodes that are kind of like go-to episodes. So people like for some topics that may cause some controversy, or for topics that are really important, maybe it's a genetic topic or such. We've put together whole episodes just to focus on those things, and I think that's important for the future too.
Content marketing, I think that's cool.
Oh,
you actually have something to say, and you're actually saying it.
Well, yeah, and a lot of times we're not even looking at it from a marketing or a selling point of view. It's more of this is good information.
Providing information.
Right.
Real information, real good information, and that's a hard thing to do these days because there's so much of it. We have to filter it out. I mean, especially with something like reptiles, there's so much information out there available nowadays, because of the internet and all that. I mean, one of the biggest problems becomes how do you weed through and what information do you really believe?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
There's a lot of bad information out there. There really is.
and Paul, that's why we try to get experts like yourself on, and we ask questions.
I'm only an expert because I'm older than dust. You were mentioning Ron Tremper in his book. I've got you beat on one thing, though. The rarest book, the oldest book in my collection, is a book called Cobras in His Garden. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it.
No.
It's a book that was, I think it's from the 40s, if I'm not mistaken. It's about Bill Hoff. It's one of the first books written about Bill Hoff down in Florida, the guy who'd been bitten so many times. He just died here a couple of years ago at age 100 by self-immunizing with cobra venom, and he just saved, hundreds of people's lives and really worked hard towards the cure of polio and almost did it. But, he was a herpetological treasure up until the time that he died here fairly recently. But, Ron Tremper, though, is an excellent, excellent human being. And I've known him for years, and just one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. Very, very low-key. Has a huge operation. He could probably teach you more about breeding large-scale herps on a budget than anybody that you could think of. One of the neatest animals Ron ever introduced, though, was the veiled chameleon.
Yep.
I mean, he always wasn't a big leopard gecko breeder. I mean, he brought in a lot of neat stuff, and one of them was the veiled chameleon.
I remember when they first hit the scene. Oh yeah,
big stir when it first hit the scene, man.
Like 20 years ago, right? 20.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
so I've been
I remember
keeping
those
reptiles
cool.
for a long, long, long time. I've been keeping reptiles for almost 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I just as much into the cage building and as the animals. Quite frankly, I've got a real passion for it. I always have. I was one of those kids that, if you're driving along the road with your mom and you saw an old refrigerator by the side of the road, you immediately looked and thought, wow, that'd be a cool size for a cage. So that's kind of, you see a box or some old cabinets laying around and say, oh, man, I could turn that into a cage easily. That'd be a great size for a cage, stuff like that. And
now
so
we get excited over Rubbermaid and Sterilite tubs now.
Oh,
right?
Usually, you go walk into a Target or a Walmart and you go right straight to the tub section. But I've advanced since then, and now we get tubs that are actually made for reptiles, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's the tubs we use now. Like mainly we use Vision tubs.
Oh, Vision tubs. Yeah, they're really popular.
Vision tubs are good because they got a handle on them.
Yeah, they're sturdy, right? They're really thick plastic. Right?
They really are. They're I think like 25% more, or like 25% thicker, and they're really good tubs. Like I said, I didn't really dawn on me until I was using another. The CB70 tubs, and all of a sudden I switched to V70 with that really nice handle on the front of it on the short side of the box. And man, that makes a huge difference. It really does. I had no idea how much of a difference that would make until I started using it. The only problem with Vision is for the hatchlings, for terrestrial hatchlings, we use the Vision V18s. and they're a little narrow. And when you set it side by side with the Freedom Breeder hatchling tub, the Freedom Breeder is built like a brick, wood house, and it really kind of blows the VA away. But there's a lot of tubs that we're really kind of selecting for, and we don't build racks around sterilite tubs anymore, hardly at all, because the tub sizes vary so much. It's really hard to make a rack for those tubs because a lot of the tubs don't fit, or might fit in a certain hole, may not fit in another hole. You understand what I mean?
And then they change it in a couple of years too.
Yeah, and then they change on you. And so if that's the case, then you really are kind of screwed, glued, and tattooed.
Well, I mean, the rack building business has grown by leaps and bounds, even in the last decade. You would think, though, that they would make specific sizes specifically for the rack building manufacturers. Do you think they're doing that?
I don't know how big it really is. You're comparing it to things like the jeans industry or the dog food industry. It's not very big. But when you look at it, there are several companies like Vision and Freedom Breeder that are making tubs that are just for reptiles. And yes, they do cost more, but yes, they're a lot better. And they'll last you a lot longer, and you're going to be a lot happier with them. So it's one of those kind of decisions that everybody kind of individually has to make. Do I want to spend a little extra money to have that quality, and is that really and truly worth it? And, for my money, I've always found that the more money I could spend on something, the better it's going to be.
Of course.
I read something in Reader's Digest a long time ago, and it said, don't be afraid of spending too much for a thing. Be very afraid of spending too little for a thing, whatever that thing happens to be, because if you spend too much money for it, you will have wasted a little bit of money, but money can be made up pretty fast. What you're getting, though, will do what you wanted it to do. If you spend too little money, the thing that you're going to get is not going to do what you want it to do, and therefore you're going to trash it in the end, thereby wasting all that money. Then you're going back and spending it again. Like if you're spending some money on some really, really cheap racks, well, they're going to last you a few years, and you're going to be, throwing them out and coming to a guy like me or somebody else, and getting really good stuff. Where you'd be money ahead by buying the quality stuff in the beginning. It's just money well spent.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think one of the things that happens, especially with beginners, is beginners really don't know how to navigate through the products and figure out which products are the safest, which products are the best, which breeders are the most reputable, and which breeders have good genetics, especially, and they make a lot of mistakes. I certainly did when I first started, and
absolutely,
and one of the things we try to do here is also to help the new people not make certain mistakes. I want to create like a safe haven for people to, understand that we're not going to have anybody here that's questionable or shady, so to speak. We want people to know that, the people that we bring on are reputable, and, we more or less stand behind them. And we don't want to bring anybody on the show that's going to deceive them or, rip them off or anything like that.
No, absolutely. They've got to have a good, trustworthy source.
Right. I try to strive for that. And you know what? It's partly because when I was starting out, I certainly made all those mistakes. I got definitely ripped off many times. I learned the hard way, and that's the way to learn. And, that helped me also. I tell people all the time, I said, I found the best people in this industry and in this community by getting ripped off by all the bad ones. And, it's definitely true.
Right.
So, and I think it's a worthwhile experience, too. It costs some money, it costs some heartache, but you know what? It's worth it. And, Paul, just seeing how you do things and knowing what I know about you, I can tell that you're putting 150% into your business and into what you're building. And these racks that you're making are incredible.
Thank you.
They're so beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Yes, they're so aesthetically pleasing. They just look perfect. They look clean cut, and they look totally like elite racks. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to make the best racks that you could possibly make?
Well, I am not motivated by money, and when I say that, I don't mean for everybody to try and jump in my pocket, but making money does not get me out of bed in the morning. What gets me out of bed in the morning is doing something with a rack that nobody has ever seen before. And making my product as high quality as I possibly can. And this company, I've been kind of limping along for about 5 years, and we were just about out of business and really kind of having a lowest ebb moment. And a friend of mine said, well, let's make a YouTube video. I mean, I was out looking for jobs and everything else. And he goes, well, I said, you know what? I got that 20-foot by 20-foot warehouse. Oh, that's impressive. What are we going to do it with? Your phone? Well, yeah, I got a phone. Okay, yeah, right, sure. Well, we did it anyway. And sure enough, it got a lot of hits. And I got an inquiry from Australia. So we put the deal together, and all of a sudden they advanced me a bunch of money, and I got to rebuild my shop, and I built a bunch of jigs just to get the products absolutely perfectly square. And I mean, just all kinds of tools that I needed, machinery that I needed, and everything else. And so we have been rolling like crazy here in the last year or so. We just put the largest order that we've ever had out the door, which is enough product to fill up a 40-foot shipping container. And that is right now, as we speak, somewhere between the United States of America and Australia on the sea. And so I've given them the full distribution rights to the entirety of Australia. And now we've got somebody in Europe that wants to be our distributor over there. And things are just really rocking. And that's been the biggest joy to me, is seeing the product. And I got a guy that is just absolutely horrible employee. But this guy is so good at building my products. It's just phenomenal. And we've done some things that I stupidly said, yeah, we can do that, without really knowing what it goes into doing it. But in the end, it makes for a very, very good product. They wanted all the heat strips that were normally sandwiched inside the material, because I'll tell you about the material in a minute. It's hollow. They want them all removable, which we really had to completely re-engineer the product. But it's really cool, because let's say 5-10 years from now, you have a shelf go out. Well, instead of having to just live with it, all you got to do is pull off the patch on the side of the rack, unplug your with this little handy little plug into each level, pull it out, pull the new one in, put the new one in, plug it back in, put the patch on, and you're back in business. And there's all kinds of neat little things like that, and the product has just taken a huge leap forward. And I've got some really good professional photography done on it, and that's all over the website. And it's, everything is really, really starting to happen. But, I've never, ever wanted to be one of these, and that's why one of the reasons why I don't advertise on King Snake anymore, is because it's a really low-end market, and my product is really a high-end product, to be honest with you. It's not cheap.
Yeah, right.
Not the most expensive in the world, but it's certainly not cheap. And I don't go to try and make it cheap. I cut no corners whatsoever. We don't spare any costs. We do it right. We do it, like what we were talking about this afternoon. I've been using FlexWatt heat tape for years. And by the way, before I go any further with that, I tried to use some of your competition the other day. And man, what a failure that was. Good God. I would never, ever. When I do FlexWatt in the shelves, for heated shelves, you got to, for belly heat, for lack of a better word. I've never liked that word, but for whatever, that gives you belly heat. The heating is actually inside the shelf, so it's out of sight and out of harm's way. Well, instead of attaching it with the alligator clips, I solder it on. It's a very, very tedious process, but it is the best and the safest way to do that. And then we take where that solder is. I used to use this tape that was about $35 a roll, and it was made for ovens, so it wouldn't burn or melt up to like 350 degrees. But an electrician saw that and said, "Why don't you just put a dab of silicone, clear silicone over that?" And it just works fantastically. So generally speaking, the only problems that you're going to have with flex watt will last for years and years and years and years and years and years. The only problem that you have is where the flex watt connects with the wire. And I think flex watt, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, flex watt would recommend that you solder.
The two things that they recommend is skilled soldering, and what I mean by skilled is they want it to be done by someone that knows how to solder. And if you're not skilled in soldering, you can really make mistakes. And then for people that can't solder it on, they invented a complete crimp connector that is very, very good. And unfortunately,
no one uses it, but
Well, unfortunately, the correct way to use it is to use the FlexWatt crimp tool, which costs about $75. And a lot of people can't justify that expense, so they wind up making their connections with vice grips and lineman pliers and God knows what else, and they don't make their connections correctly. And then they have all different varying degrees of results with it. And over the years, they've blamed the product for that when it's really their fault because they're not using the proper tools. And
in the long run, when you burn down a rack of animals or part of your house or collection, how much does that $70 tool really cost?
What did you say when you burn down your house?
Yeah, if you end up having
that's the point I'd like to make, because you're dealing going cheap on something like FlexWatt or anything else that has anything at all to do with electricity is a fool's game. It's a fool's errand. Don't do it. Get the best you possibly can buy.
Right.
Because you're right. I mean, you mess up with that stuff, that can potentially burn down your house.
Well, people.
So why would you want to go cheap? It'd be like buying a $5,000 stereo and $25 speakers.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people think that FlexWatt is what everybody's selling. FlexWatt is the inventor of heat tape, and these other products are not FlexWatt. These are just imitations. And some imitate it better than others, but the FlexWatt is still the leading innovator in heat tape technology. And I mean, a lot of people, the competition like to get on me and they say, "Oh, you're just saying that, Dave, because you're a sales rep for Calorique, the maker of FlexWatt." And you know what? I'm saying that because I've been using FlexWatt for 20 years, and FlexWatt built the reptile industry. If it wasn't for FlexWatt, there would be no big breeders anywhere. And for anybody to just abandon that product that got us all this way and not stand behind it, I question that a lot. And that's what made me when I started seeing this imitation come out, and they were calling it FlexWatt. They were trying to deceive the community, and I had to straighten that whole thing out. And Calorique noticed my support of the product and offered me a job. So it's not like I get paid to promote it. I was already standing up for it, and because I'm one of those people that know the benefits of using the best products and the safest products. And I don't want to take chances with my collection. I want to know.
Not an area you want to scrimp out.
Yeah, I want to know how this product's made. How many certifications does it have? Is it being made with quality components? I want to know this.
Is it UL listed?
Right. I mean, in FlexWatt, Calorique's products is the only manufacturer in the world with a UL listing. The UR stamp is something the imitations get. And FlexWatt also has that too. But it's the UL listing in housing and construction applications, and our product is the same quality that is. That product is rated as a 20-year warranty. So, in the reptile community, we only get a 5-year warranty because there is no set standard yet. But still, it's good. It's the same.
I've never had any go out. Have you?
No. I have old FlexWatt going back 15 years and even longer, and it still works. Yeah, I haven't plugged it in a while because I've upgraded my racks, but every once in a while I do, and it's still fine. It looks like it was made. I mean, it looks like it's the same. It hasn't discolored. It hasn't warped or anything. Yeah, it's the same.
And I'm sure there's examples of it that's still being used 20, 25 years. How long has it been out on the market? 30?
It was invented in Massachusetts. FlexWatt invented heat tape in Massachusetts I believe it was 32 years ago.
So there's probably some that's still working from 32 years ago.
I bet you
early
somewhere
30s.
out there
I
is.
bet you there is.
Yeah, and
but
you know
anyway,
what,
I mean, if you get 10, 15, 20 years out of a product, I mean, if you got that out of a car, you'd be ecstatic. You know, if you get that out of a cage
or to replace.
FlexWatt or something like that. But frankly, I hate to say this, but if I had my way, I'd force everybody to use radiant heat panels.
Radiant heat? Well, that's kind of, you know, heat. You can't really do belly heat that good with that stuff, though, right? I mean,
well, you know something, it does bring up the argument, why do belly heat?
Well, it seems like the more logical way to do it.
It's based on the theory of because reptiles thermal regulate, correct?
It's also based on the theory that heat rises, which isn't necessarily true either. Heat emanates, and, you know, it can emanate out to the sides and up and down.
True.
Yeah, you're right.
True.
I mean,
true.
Yeah,
no, I've had
I
people that requested to heat up the back, which we used to do a lot more than we do now. And we do it heated in the shells because everybody wants that. But, you know, quite frankly, I know people who won't have it in the shells because they have, you know, ball pythons that lay their eggs on it sometimes, and once in a while they'll lose a clutch because of it. But, you know, the whole, I'm just really always into questioning the status quo. And sometimes Philip devotionally pretty much said, you know, thermal regulation is where it's at, and that's what reptiles do. And everybody just kind of bought it hook, line, and sinker. And sometimes it's good. I'm not saying it's not true, but sometimes it's good to go back and question these things, because really, if they're such good thermal, especially snakes, if snakes were such good thermal regulators, why then can a snake wrap himself around a light bulb and burn itself to death?
Yeah, not notice it's getting too hot, or like Savannah monitors.
They don't sense pain like we do. I can tell you that.
Right.
But
yeah,
of course, I would much rather have it heated on in the shelf, because I think it just does a better job of heating. It's more efficient. Blah blah blah. But
that's the other thing.
A guy, a very 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 top-notch breeder, once kind of made an offhand remark one time. I think I'm the only one that caught it that was there. Because it just seemed to me like we bred more reptiles when we heated the room. And you know something? There might be something to that. So who knows what the cages of the future are going to have. But interesting to think about. You know, we've got a lot of innovations that we're going to be coming out. One of the problems that we have is there's no lights in our incubators. And so to see your eggs, to check on the eggs, see if they've hatched, blah, 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 sometimes it's going to be unavoidable. But a lot of times, if you just have a light that you could turn on, it might really save yourself a lot of trouble. And every time you open that door to the incubator, you change the environment of the incubator. And so what we're doing, we're going to hook that up to a motion sensor. So all you have to do is wave your hand in front of the incubator, and the lights come on. And then we're going to put a camera / motion sensor. What?
That is awesome. Yeah.
I think it would be, and it's pretty easy to do. Not that I want to get into too many of our secrets, but there's also little motion sensor cameras you can buy that you could rig it so it'll just send you a text or something like that when the eggs are hatching.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we're thinking of, and that's what really, really turns me on more than anything else. I got to tell you, I love doing big orders and everything else, but and I love running the business and promoting it, which is my forte. I'm trying to work myself out of the shop as much as possible. What?
Yeah, well, Paul, it's going to be those little innovations and those little things that definitely are going to set you aside. And I'm sure, you'll be the first one to do it and others will follow you. But, those little things, I mean, yeah, those upgrades will cost a few bucks. But, I mean, imagine, being able to be at work or at your real job, so to speak, and, you got an important clutch about to hatch. You really don't want to miss it. It's something time sensitive or whatever, or you can do something that you want to get home to right away. To get a text that your eggs are hatching, I mean, that's so cool. That's amazing.
Isn't that cool? And we've got a whole list of stuff we're going to be coming out and doing. But I mean, that's the thing that really turns me on the most, is doing stuff that no one has ever done. For the first 5 years of our company, we did 100% custom work. 100%. now we're kind of moving towards standard sizes because it just makes a lot of sense from a manufacturing standpoint, and I know enough about what to offer. It's just about have something for everybody. But we'll still do custom, but we are moving towards standard sizes a little bit. But I really enjoy running the company, really enjoy dealing with people, do not enjoy dealing with technology, although I do every day, all day it seems like, but I'm not a real big, techno guy. But, yeah, you're going to start seeing our company a lot. We're redesigning the website. We're going to be going through a complete overhaul of the website, starting from the ground up. With the good photography, and we're going to have a really nice YouTube channel. I think we're going to invest some money in some recording equipment and some video recording, lights and umbrellas and all that kind of stuff to make some good YouTube videos. Because quite frankly, it's all about videos these days. I mean,
yeah,
it really is. But
well, it's all about editing the videos too. Did you see the video that Steve, our media man, has made for the promo for the show? Did you get to see that thing that we put together?
No, I did not.
I posted it on the Protek Facebook page for you and for your followers so they could know about the show. He did a really nice promo video. We do a promo video just about for every guest that comes on the show. He spends a lot of time
I saw it on the Facebook page today, but I guess I didn't see the video.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked the guys, how the heck did that get there? Well, they put it there.
He may be a good, if you're looking for someone to edit videos, he may be able to help you if he has time. He does phenomenal video work. And
really?
Oh my
cool.
God, yeah.
Cool.
Go on the Gecko Nation Radio Facebook page and check out the promo vid. The way the scenes transition, and it's just like it's a slideshow on steroids. But the way he does it is just, it's seamless.
Nice.
Seamless. And he's in
I
the
love that kind of production work. I really do. It's just, there's so much. I mean, and I'm seeing this all happen in front of my eyes, and I've wanted it to happen for so many years. It's good. It's good to see. It really is. But our company's making leaps and bounds with that sort of thing, and that's kind of the wave of the future. Because, the biggest problem that I have, quite frankly, is we make world-class cages, racks, and incubators, and the biggest problem that I have is getting the word out there. Because advertising costs money. We're just got done, and we're not quite done with building our infrastructure. I need to move this thing into a warehouse. I'm not in a warehouse yet. I've got a big old huge garage here, but I mean it's nowhere near big enough, and it all costs money. And we're going to be moving to a warehouse, and there's one piece of equipment I need to get. It's a adhesive dispenser. It's about $5,000, and we'll be doing some more jigs, and we'll be ready to roll some big time production. Now it's like, we can only build like 1 or 2 or 3 orders at a time, so we need to expand and build that infrastructure a bit. But the product, for the very limited amount of people who have stumbled onto it, this is probably the most sellable product out there. And I've been studying this for a long time, and when I go back to, for example, all the reptiles magazines that I have since they started, and I'm looking at all these old ads from all these cage companies that came and went, and just about every single time you can look at that and say, why did that company fail? And it's almost inevitably, and there's probably other mitigating circumstances, but in almost every case, there's something funny about the way the product looks. And I know form follows function, but on the same token, if a product is not sellable, then you're not going to do well. And my product is, in my opinion, anyway, very, very professional looking. And,
oh my God, it's among the best.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's just, I think I've got a winner because it's a good looking product, let alone the fact that it's just phenomenal. I mean, everything is built into these products that we could think of after 50 years of keeping reptiles. And interestingly enough, a lot of my better ideas have not come from me. They've come from my customers, but which I guess is a good thing. But I don't know. Jump in.
Well,
I lost my place.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I go off on tangents too. But
I found myself kind of rambling on.
Yeah, well, that's all right. We all ramble, but the point is, you're making amazing racks. And what I like about yours is I like the fact that you're using white PVC. It's PVC plastic, right? Is that what it's made out of?
It's 100% pure PVC, not PVC.
Nice.
You know, a lot of these racks most of these manufacturers I call sheet goods manufacturers, and I'm not putting them down or anything. They have their place. And they're designed to be inexpensive. And I'm a strong believer that you get what you pay for in life. It's a lot more work to put my stuff together because it comes in long planks and I've got to cut it down and everything else. Whereas one manufacturer takes a sheet of plastic, let's say you got a 4 foot cage, it's a 4 foot piece of plastic, you make 1, 2, 3, 4 bends in it, and now you got your bottom, back, and top. You slap a couple sides on it and you got a cage. And then bolt a couple hinges and a piece of plexiglass on it and you got a cage. Well, this is far more intense than that. I mean, there's so many processes and steps within the process that we have of doing just literally everything that we do. You'd be amazed at all that goes into this. But, yeah, I don't know. I think the quality of a thing depends on a couple things. It depends on the material that it took to make it, and it depends on the effort that it took to make it. This material is the best material on the planet to be making cages, racks, and incubators out of. I firmly believe that from the bottom of my heart, and that is why I'm in business. One of the reasons why I'm in business, because I believe in this material so well. It's hollow on the inside. It's actually made for hog confinement. So during furrowing season, farmers will buy this stuff. It comes 21 feet long. And so they'll make big pens out of it. And so it's really sturdy. I mean, it's really strong. And since it is hollow, it captures air. And that is what insulation does. It captures all that hairy kind of fibery stuff. If you ever put the insulation between the studs, if you're making a wall or something like that, that's what insulation does. Is it traps air, and so this material actually traps air. So these cages are insulated at least to an extent. I don't know what kind of R factors or anything like that, but I can tell you that they're very, very slow to cool down, like in the evening, and very, very kind of slower anyway to heat up. So it's a little more natural, and since they're so efficient in holding in the humidity and the temperature, they're almost kind of like supercharged, and you got to kind of get used to it because they don't take anywhere near as much energy to heat than regular old standard cages.
Yeah,
but so they've kind of got that going. That's kind of a point that's really kind of actually been lost in the whole thing. But yeah, these are actually insulated cages, and that's pretty cool. It really is. Yeah, we're designing a lot of different lines. We're going to be coming out with a venomous line. My son happens to be a big venomous guy. He likes elapids of all things. And so we're designing cages and products just for venomous keepers. I don't know how well that's going to go over, but because the venomous keepers are notoriously cheap. But it's kind of like 6 million people. They're just cheap people. Anyway, but I mean, there's going to be carpet pythons cages, and there's going to be some chondro cages that are specifically designed for chondro pythons, and just we're going to get into specific lines of things. So yeah, we've got all kinds of plans.
Can you tell us a little bit about how if someone was to order one of the cages on your website, when they get it, is it assembled, or do they have to assemble it when they receive the package? Tell us a little bit about that.
You couldn't assemble this unless you were as good as me, and that's not all that hard to do, but you would have been doing it for a long time. No, the trick is into assembling this, to be honest with you. This is not a product that lends itself well to knockdown. In other words, I'm going to mail you, a couple sides, a bottom and a top and a back, and your face frame and door, and that's it. You put it together. This is not that whatsoever. This is every every inside corner is sealed, adhered, sealed, and these things do not leak. And so we go through great effort to put these together and make sure they're put together perfectly. Unless you had a really, really nice jig to do this in, it would look horrible by the time you got it done. So, no, everything comes fully assembled. All you have to do is plug in. We'll do the thermostats for you if you want us to. Or most people have their own thermostats. We're going to do that someplace else. But we're coming out with a line of mounts for all the different thermostats. So they'll mount on top of the cage or rack in front. So you got at a glance. You can tell all the cages and racks come with a probe, and incubators come with a probe port. So you got a place to put the probe. And so, no, everything comes ready to really plug and play, if you will. Plug it in, put your animals in, and you're ready to go. As long as you have a thermostat, you absolutely, definitely, 100% need a thermostat.
Okay, and then also in terms of the tubs, we talked earlier a little bit about the tubs. Do all your cages come with tubs, or is that an option that the customer could purchase on their own?
Yeah, it could be done either way. You're talking about racks, not cages. And by the way, all the cages, I do make some single cages. I'm really not real big on it, so the vast majority of cages that I make come in what's called a cage complex. And it can be 2 cages in one unit, 3 cages, 4 cages, 5 cages, whatever you want in one unit. They do not come apart. It's much, much better to build them that way. But for the tubs and the racks, we're starting to go a lot more, as I mentioned earlier, a lot more along the lines of a standard. Like we've got a V70 rack. And it houses 11 V70 tubs, and it comes with the tubs. The price with the tubs. Or let's say you have a bunch of them and you want to do the CB70 instead of the V70. That's fine. We can do just the rack. It doesn't matter at all. One of the reasons we like to have the tubs here, and we insist on having at least one tub of the shipment that you're going to be getting them from, by the way. So just to make sure, I mean, we have spacers for everything, but just to make sure nothing's changed, we insist on having at least one tub here, if not all of them, hopefully all of them, when we go to build it. Because the last thing you want to do is build one of these things, and oops, I built it a little bit too tight. These tubs just came in, and gosh darn, they're just a little bit bigger than they were on last run. Yeah, because they're building molds, and they have several different molds, and yeah, they're supposed to be the exact same, but they're not always. And like you mentioned earlier, I mean, they do change once in a while. So I really want, if you're going to order a bunch of tubs from Vision or whatever, that somebody has them sent here, then when they're shipped to you, they have all the tubs in them. Does that answer your question?
Hey, Paul. Yeah, I think it does. Hey, Paul, I was on one of your racks. I see that you have a crystal clear, looks like a big square tub that pulls out, I guess. But it's crystal clear. It's not like that opaque stuff that's hard to see through like most of the Vision tubs. What kind of tub is that?
Well, we've got 2 different sizes of what you're talking about are the arboreal racks, and we got 2 different sizes of them. And there's the hatchling one, which is short side out, which I love. God, I wish I had one right now. As a matter of fact, I just got some leucistic Amazon tree boas. But at any rate, I digress. The one you're talking about is for the medium size. It'll handle, medium-sized chondros, emeralds, Amazons, stuff like that. And those tubs, in both cases, are critter keepers.
Oh, okay.
Are you familiar with critter keepers?
Absolutely, yeah.
They're in just about every pet shop.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're not real expensive. They're not real good. They're not, polycarbonate good by any stretch of the imagination, but polycarbonate boxes are the best. They're quite pricey.
And
I've built many racks around, for people who come to me and say, hey, I want to use this polycarbonate tub, build me a rack around it, no problem, just send me one or send me the batch of them so when we're done we can photograph it with the tubs in. Just for the sake of cost, these critter keepers aren't bad, and they're easily replaceable. They don't seem to change all that much. But that was a very, very narrow rack because that size of critter keeper, and I don't have the exact dimensions right in the tip of my mind, but it's from front to back. It's a very, very narrow rack, so it can tip over really easy. So if you're going to get those, you'd almost have to make sure you secured them to the wall somehow. We don't even know if we're going to keep making that rack, actually, just for that reason. If we do, it'll probably be a short side-out rack. In other words, as you're looking at the rack, the short side of that tub is facing out, not the long side. We made the long side of that box face out because, for arboreal stuff, usually arboreal animals are really beautiful, especially chondros and emeralds. But even Amazon.
Yeah, you want to show them off.
Exactly. They're really more of a display stuff, whereas, you got a rack full of, het ball pythons, who wants to display those? Who cares? And that's where some of the LED lighting things that are, or a bunch of leopard geckos, who cares, what they look like. But, if you've got a bunch of green tree pythons or something like that, you really want to display those well. And it's one of the kind of a hybrid between a cage and a rack that we're going to be building. We want to build racks that are, at least arboreal racks that are lighted. So you don't have to, it actually is a rack, but it is a lighted rack. And that's
it's a shame, though, that, we can't get these vision tubs in crystal clear plastics.
Yeah, I know, it really is. It really is, because I love clear plastic tubs.
I
never envisioned myself having a collection of being able to walk in and do nothing but racks. I like walking in. I'm an old arboreal guy. I like walking in and looking at and being able to stand there and look at my animals. So I'm a big advocate of cages over racks. However, I am a realist. A lot of my people, a lot of my customers are buying racks from me. So but I'm a big. I know as a leopard gecko breeder, you probably don't have one cage with leopard geckos in it, do you?
Well, not anymore, because I'm breeding so many. I have to, for efficiency, it's all racks. But yeah, I would.
Yeah, you got to have
really
racks.
Yeah,
but,
I would like to be able to see inside each tub, though. Without having to pull it open all the time. I'd like.
Well, what kind of tubs do you guys use?
Well, a lot of people that buy professional racks, they come with visions, or they have to buy the vision tubs. I build my own racks, and I buy Sterilite 28 quarts from Target for my breeder racks and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But they're not. You can't see through them. They're very, it's like.
So you're the kind of guy like me is trying to change.
I want to evolve. Yeah, I want to.
You just haven't evolved yet, David. We're gonna have to get you involved here. But I tell you, a really cool tub is the Vision V35. Man, that's a cool tub. Have you ever used that for leopard geckos?
No. What is it? What is that like?
I would think it'd be perfect. It's 20 by 15 by 6.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't quote me on 6. It's actually 5 3/4 or something. But I've got my baby bloods. I've got baby raise up bloods, carpets, all kinds of stuff in them, and God, I think for leopard geckos it'd be perfect. For a lot of leopard gecko breeders, use a lot of the old Rubbermaid 28 quart tubs.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. Hey,
is that right?
Hey, Paul, do you want to stick with us for a little longer? If we take a quick break, come back for a few more questions afterwards.
Yeah, it'd be fine if we're not boring everybody to death.
No, we're not. It's an excellent show. Let's take a quick sponsor break, and we'll be right back. Hang in there, folks, for more talk with Paul from Protek. All right, cool.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David Fine Geckos creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. Gecko Nation Radio is sponsored by Gecko Boa Reptiles, is your source for the highest quality leopard gecko morphs and wild types, from white and yellows to radars, amazing tremper morphs, and rare subspecies. John is a world-class breeder and extremely knowledgeable. If you're looking for something truly special in geckos, contact John Scarborough at geckoboa.com and on Facebook. Rainbow mealworms is the largest worm grower in the world and selling to the public since 1956. If you need the highest quality mealworms, superworms, and crickets for your pets, contact them at www.rainbowmealworms.net. Ron Tremper is the biggest contributor to leopard gecko morph making, known worldwide for his amazing examples of living art. You can now download his Leopard Gecko Care app, his Morph Encyclopedia app called Leopard Gecko Pro, and visit his site, leopardgecko.com, to see where morphs are made. Supreme Gecko is a great source for crested geckos, day geckos, and other species, including microgeckos. Wally Kern is a top-notch breeder and gecko enthusiast. Visit supremegecko.com for his available animals and supplies. abdragons.com is your source for the highest quality dubia roaches. Whether you're starting a colony of your own or just need feeders for your insect-eating herps, abdragons.com can't be beat in quality or price. They are also a huge distributor of FlexWatt reptile heat tape and have very competitive pricing. Check out abdragons.com online and on Facebook.
Okay, we are back, and thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Tim, I know, Tim, you have some questions for Paul. Go ahead.
Yes, Paul, I just wanted to talk to you about, we spoke earlier about the radiant heat panels and the FlexWatt. How does it work? Do you offer the rack systems with the radiant heat, or is that just for the caging?
No, that's just for cages. With racks, there is no radiant heat panel that is the right size. And quite frankly, you would have to have so many different sizes, it just wouldn't be practical, and it would be very expensive. Traded heat panels, they just took a pretty big jump in price here recently. I get mine from Helix, and I build a shroud around them. You can see it on the website. But radiant heat panels are by far the cheapest and safest, and in my opinion, the best kind of heat to give to reptiles. The founder of Helix, which is, to my knowledge, the first company that came out with radiant heat panels, a guy by the name of Roger, died several years ago, but the guy was brilliant. And he was a big tortoise guy. And so he built them to hang down in tortoise enclosures. And with the probe just hanging down just about an inch off the ground, so if a tortoise would walk through the probe would just go where the probe needs to go. But radiant heat panels are very expensive, but I think in the long term would probably save you money. And they're very, very easy to install, and they're very, very safe and very, very efficient. And tell us, when you build the racks, is the FlexWatt? Do you build a channel on the bottom of the shelf for the FlexWatt to go into? Oh God, no! We're way advanced. Much more advanced than that. No, that started in the 1970s when someone thought that idea. It was probably the same guy that thought melamine would be a good material for this sort of thing, which is somebody who didn't know what they were doing. The material that we build all of our cages, racks, and incubators out of is called a hollow core PVC. And it comes in 21-foot long by 20-inch wide by 7/8 inch thick panels. So it's about the thickness of 3/4 inch plywood, if that helps. The thing about it is, and one of the things that makes it so good, is it's hollow on the inside. So that means, and every 2 inches, there is a rib that runs lengthwise inside of the material. And that's what makes it, and that's what gives it its strength. So one of the tricks is we have to remove one of those ribs. And if you've got a shelf that's going to take a heat panel, and that shelf is 4 feet long, that's a very, very big, tough job to do. We figured out a way to do it safely. And what happens is, and we could do it on any rib in that shelf, we always put it on the back. So we got a 4-inch space or cavity, if you will, inside that shelf towards the rear, towards the back of the shelf, that what happens is we take a piece of FlexWatt and we put that piece of FlexWatt onto a piece of plastic that slides into there, into that cavity. And it's all wired up, and all the wiring for everything is going on one side of the rack. And if you see the pictures on the website, you see that long floor-to-ceiling type, the length of the size of the rack, patch on the side. That's what's covering up all that electrical wiring. And so even all of the levels of all of our racks are heated, by the way, even the top level, because every level in the rack is heated on both sides. Do you understand?
Oh,
yeah. It not only has the heat on the floor, but the shelf above it is the floor to another level, so that's heated. So every tub in that rack has got heat on both top and bottom of any rack that's got heat like this. However, because we're able to run that heat on the inside of the shelf, we also put it on the top shelf so to make that one heated too, the same way as the others. But even on that top shelf, that means a wire is going from that shelf all the way down to the bottom, and all the wires from the rack go into a junction box. So on a full-size rack, you got a pull-out work surface, which is kind of nice, actually. And all of the tubs on top of that work surface are on one zone, and all of the heating on below that pull-out work surface are on another zone. And so in the back, right in the middle, you have two cords coming out of that rack, one for zone 1, one for zone 2, so you could have that on a dual zone thermostat. So you can control the bottom boxes differently than you can control the upper bottom. The reason being is they're colder towards the floor. So if you've got a thermostat that can do that, or two thermostats, you can run these a little bit warmer than the top ones, and then just make some adjustments that way. So all of our racks come in two different heating zones. Number one, and every
No, that's interesting, and calibrating your racks is something of an art, actually. You're dealing with especially a lot of people say, the tubs on the bottom are always a little cooler, and
yep.
You have to ramp up your.
We try to get these up off the floor as much as possible. They're up about 7 inches off the floor, and quite frankly, if it was up to me, I'd put every rack or cage on a 1-foot pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, I mean, all the cages that we're building for our own collection now, they're not on casters. They're all on a foot-high pedestal, because it is so much. When you come, especially not so much with racks, but with cages, they're so much easier to clean and just easier to deal with and handle than a cage that's way low. The worst thing you could ever do is put a cage on the floor. Don't ever.
I know.
Don't ever.
I like
or a rack.
I love that pull-out shelf in the middle. That looks like such a convenience.
I'll tell you what, after you have a rack that's got one of those, you will never, ever have a rack that doesn't again. Period. Because those things come in handy so often. I mean, I was just feeding a little teeny Amazon tree boa a pink here just a little bit ago, and, you pull it out, you got your pink there, you got your hemostats, and you're ready to go. And it's just, there's so many uses for that shelf, and it's really kind of nice. It just pulls out when you need it, pulls and pushes in when you don't need it. But another thing we do to kind of counter the cold floor problem, especially for people up north, is we put some extra spray-in insulation in the bottom level. So hopefully to kind of stop that cold coming up, especially at night.
Yeah, it seems
so
like
we got
it
extra
just
insulation
through.
on the bottom level. Is just one of the features of our racks.
Yep, I deal with that here with my homemade racks. It's I have to keep the bottom levels like 3-4 degrees warmer just to compensate, and it works.
Yeah, it's
but,
amazing when you really. when you really get and one of the herp tools that I always recommend is probably the best herp tool I ever bought myself in all my years of keeping reptiles, and that's a heat gun.
Oh yeah.
Mine, the one I have is called a mini temp heat gun, and man, I tell you what, that's why I don't like the open air racks. And I'm not going to mention any named companies, but they're made out of metal, and you slide them in, and they've got they're going over a full screen metal top. Well,
yep.
I've built racks. I've had racks like that made from those companies, and I've actually built racks out of this material that only use the shelves. And in the corners of the shelves, I drilled holes and had what's called all thread rod. And it's no sides, no back. And I tell you what, the temperatures not only varied from the floor to the ceiling, but they also varied from left and right and front to back.
Yeah, there's too much escape.
In not a good way.
Right. I know.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. They look great, but as far as efficiency and keeping the heat insulated and inside, it's just like the heat can go everywhere. It can just escape from all different angles.
Oh, God, yeah, very, very inefficient. I mean,
right.
If you've got a lot of cages and racks in a room, your electric bill can be pretty high. And you want to do everything you can to minimize that. But, just for the consistency for the animals, these racks are far superior. And there's a guy that's got a whole, well over $100,000 worth of racks in his herp room that are made out of this material. He made them from a different company, but he says, I swear to God, my breeding success is a lot better in these kinds of racks than in the open air kind of racks. They really are. So that's why I kind of went back to putting sides and backs on my racks.
Well, that's part of innovating a product. There is science behind it. There's trial and error, and getting it just right, and that's important. Well, one thing is true. You are using the most energy efficient heat tape, of course, and FlexLot. If you guys, I encourage anybody out there to do their own testing on these different heat tapes. Energy efficiency is something that's important because some of these products will just wreck your electric bill up like crazy, especially if you got a bunch of racks and you're using a cheap heat tape. That's just gonna, oh my God, I don't know. Your electric
if you're just starting and you just have a little bit, it's no big deal. But if you're into it, and you're heating and lighting with light bulbs, like incandescent light bulbs, that can really get expensive. Even those ceramic heat emitters can really pull a lot of juice. There's a lot cheaper and better ways to do it, and I might add a lot safer ways to do it.
It just gave me a thought. A lot of people that breed bearded dragons, go through a lot of light bulbs, and these light bulbs are made in China. They don't last long, and they're very expensive. You can turn them on one day and they just blow. They last a few months, and some of these bulbs are $50 each. Oh yeah, but the bearded dragons like that heat from above. If you could, what you're talking about with the radiant heat panels, if you could position the heat panel to aim down and then use maybe full spectrum fluorescents, which are inexpensive enough and last pretty long, you won't have to invest in these cheaply made and very expensive full spectrum bulbs anymore. You might be able to do it differently, and that's my next question to you, Paul. Do you see yourself making innovations for dragon owners in that aspect? Maybe making racks and cages specifically for dragon keepers?
Well, we could. Frankly, I've never thought of that, and I don't know how big the bearded dragon breeding industry really is. I know that sounds like a stupid question, because bearded dragons are everywhere. But if there's 3 guys that are producing 90% of them, then there's not too much of a market for me, because heat panels are not cheap.
Well, I'm talking about.
If I'm not mistaken, off of Helix site, a mini heat panel, like 11 inches by 11 inches, which I use commonly. If I'm not mistaken, it's like $89 now.
Okay.
If I buy enough of them, last time I bought a whole bunch of them, I got it down to like $60 or something like that. But you got to buy a whole bunch of them to get them down at any kind of price at all. So they are kind of expensive, but there again, I know that Jeff, the owner of Felix, he was telling me one time somebody came to him and says, "Hey man, do you have any seconds? Anything at all, just sitting around?" He says, "Well, wait a minute, I got a stack of them that have been out back for like 15 years. Let's go check those things." Guess what? They worked. I mean, radiant heat panels are like FlexWatt. They don't ever seem to go out. Very reliable, durable product.
I know. It's good stuff. I mean, it's meant to. They're meant to last 20 years. I mean, a lot of times with these applications where they put them under floors and under cement and stuff, you want to put it under there and forget about it. You don't want to be digging up cement every decade or so and replacing it. It's got to last. And a lot of the
all of my arboreal cages come standard with radiant heat panels, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm a really big believer in it, because you can run branches right underneath them. And that animal can choose to be right underneath it where it's really hot, really bask, or they can get over on it. And they really do have kind of a lot of fun messing with it. I mean, you'll watch like a condor or an emerald tree boa, and it'll just inch over, throughout the day. It's really kind of funny, and you can turn it up on them and see how fast they move off and all kinds of fun stuff. But yeah, I'm a big believer in heat panels. I love them. But
that's cool.
I like my FlexWatt.
What do you think? Yeah. Well, what do you think you're going to be doing for the for that? What are you doing differently or special for venomous keepers?
Well, again, I kind of don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much, but I'm building or designing it's actually a hybrid between a cage and a rack, and it's got a permanent window on it, so it looks like a cage, but it actually slides out on big, huge drawer slides, and it has a multifunctional plexiglass top that has got some doors that slide and some dividers, so you can divide animals off and go in and clean cage. I mean, you're talking if you're keeping taipans and stuff like that. You want it ultra safe. And I haven't built one of these yet. I certainly haven't sold any yet. I don't know how many. I don't know what it's going to be priced. It's not going to be that bad, but I don't know how many will sell. I just primarily do it because it's really not a money thing. It's really a kind of nobody really is making a lot of good housing products for venomous. And there's a lot of venomous keepers out there, believe it or not.
Oh yeah.
And there really are. They're really a very, very well-disciplined underground kind of an army, but they're out there. And some of this venomous stuff really sells for some high dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a lot of very rare stuff. Huh?
Some of them are just absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, God, some of them are just gorgeous. But I've always been a python ebola guy, but, my son's really into venomous, so I think we're going to be designing a shift box. And I've built several of them, but I'm not real happy with any of the designs. And so we're designing one that you can go from bagging the animal to putting it in a shift box and putting it into the cage, all very, very, very safely. And one system that does the whole thing. And these things can be shipped. They're not going to be so expensive that, you can get your animal, say it's a green mamba. You get the mamba in the shift box. You put build a tough wooden box around the shift box. So on the other end, when they get this animal, they're getting it in a shift box. And that they can go from putting it in a bag if they want or putting it right in the cage if they want. And the other thing is there's YouTube videos of a guy trying to put a black forest cobra in a trash can. So that's what venomous keepers typically use, the trash cans. Well, all these elapids, especially the longer ones, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet, what they do is they go straight up. So, I mean, it's a really kind of a funny YouTube video of this guy trying to put this thing in there, and it just keeps on coming up. And so we're going to be making a kind of a cleaning, holding thing to take place of the trash can, where there is 2 doors, a door in the side and a plexiglass door at the top.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So you can put it in the thing. You put it.
put the animal in on the side if you're hooking it.
That's just it.
So,
I've always been fascinated with venomous stuff, but I'm afraid I don't think that I'm responsible enough to keep them. And maybe there's a lot of people out there that would like to keep certain venomous, but maybe they're afraid
I'm too
of
old.
aging.
I'm way too old to be keeping venomous. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Are you kidding? Out of all the stuff that we have, though, the only thing I won't hook are green mambas. And I'm telling you, those things go up. We've got this collection that's not part of the company or anything. It's not here physically. But they will go up a hook faster than water runs downhill. Let's put it that way. My son handles them without any problem with the hook. Me, I'm too old and slow. I ended up throwing the hook down, and I said never again. So I either do them with tongs or in shift boxes, but they don't like to go into shift boxes. But at any rate.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, if the cage was built really safe, Paul, I mean, I may even consider. I would like to have a rhino viper or a gaboon. I love those, and they're not very expensive, but
no,
they're
gorgeous.
I would only consider it if I felt completely safe, and I just I don't know. It's just I've always held myself back from getting one.
Well, we're trying as hard as we can to put as much thought into it as possible to keep people as safe as possible. I don't care if we're the only ones that ever use it. Then we will have the premier collection and facilities, But like I said, my son actually, right before he had any of my products, did not follow protocol one day, and he got bit in the face by a western diamondback. Just about died.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he walked out of the hospital 6 days later with nothing but a fat lip.
Oh my
God,
God,
that's
crazy.
Just incredible. I mean, they called me and I flew in. He was stationed here in Oklahoma at the time, and flew me in and everything. We thought the kid was going to die. There was a 24-hour vigil. Huh?
That was your son, you said?
Yeah.
Oh my.
And how does that make me feel? I manufacture reptile cages, and my son doesn't have any, and he's getting bit by a venomous snake. So it was a complete God thing, man, all the way around. It was just amazing. I mean, this hospital here in this small town normally carries 12 vials. Well, a week before, somebody had messed up and ordered an extra 12, and it just so happened to take 24 vials.
Wow.
Yeah, he drove himself it takes an hour to thaw out one vial of antivenom, and it has to do it very, very, very slowly. Can't not be any air hole bubbles or anything like that. So within an hour and 10 minutes, he drove himself to the ambulance station. There just happens to be every single one of them in the county there for a big meeting. But they got him to the hospital within 5 minutes, and he was being administered antivenom within an hour and 10 minutes. Jeez. And the doctor on staff just happened to intubate him at the exact right time. And he said if he would have waited maybe even minutes or seconds more to do that, it would have been a whole different thing, because his neck swole up so much. It makes doing tracheotomies and stuff like that a whole different ballgame. So, yeah, it's just a God thing all the way through. But, yeah, we're designing, we haven't come out with it yet, but we just haven't had time, a whole bunch of products just for venomous keepers. And I hope it sells. I hope they appreciate it. I don't care if I ever really make any money on the thing, but, hell, I mean, if we can keep somebody alive, that's worth it for me. But, I don't know, well, sorry?
And I would imagine, your son made some changes in protocols and so forth after that.
Yeah,
incident.
I tell you, we don't even go into that room if we're not in a good mood. And we've noticed this many, many times, especially with venomous snakes. We're dealing with some very venomous snakes. By and large, there are exceptions to this rule, but by and large, they're not animals that mean you any harm. They really aren't. But they're just so nervous that you have to treat them very, very special. And it's kind of a fun challenge, actually. But
defensive. They're very defensive.
Huh?
They're very defensive.
Extremely, yeah. But we found that what happens is they play off, and you could relate this to any reptile. They play off of your synergy. Now, let me explain that, if I can. I'm not even sure that I can. How the animal reacts. The animal's reacting to you, and they're extraordinarily acutely aware of whether you are afraid of them or not. And how they respond is going to be how you respond. So you really, especially when you're doing something with some dangerous animals like venomous stuff, you really shouldn't be messing with those things if you're in a hurry, you've just had a fight with your wife, you're upset for any reason whatsoever, you're in a bad mood. Don't even go near them. Walk right out of the room. I mean, that's one of our standard protocols. You got to be in a good mood, and you can't be in a hurry. And, I mean, that's where mistakes happen, because you cannot take the danger from it 100%, in my opinion. I mean, there's still going to be times. I mean, one of the most dangerous times, actually, is opening the door and putting food in. Because some of these things they have such a strong feeding response. You open the door, that can be a very dangerous time. You can have, and I've had animals, right out on the floor, and you got to know, got to be able to deal with them. So, there's got to be a way to make some sort of food chute or inner door, a door within a door or something like that, just to be able to pop that thing open real quick, a little teeny door, and put the food in and get it shut, So there's safer ways to do just about anything.
Paul, do you have any plans in the near future? Or do you guys have any shows lined up that you'll be vending and displaying some of your caging?
Well, no. I'm in Oklahoma for the short time being. Moved here from Charleston, South Carolina, and our plans are to move back to the East Coast. I just like it a lot better. Around here, there is the Dallas show. What is it, Urba? I can't remember. Big show, and we're going to be doing that here in the next year. And there's actually shows in Oklahoma City. We're going to be doing those too. But to be honest with you, we just haven't gotten around to doing shows yet. And I know it's important. I know I got to get out there, but it's not a cheap thing to do. It's not like packing a whole bunch of deli cups with animals in them in your car and just driving to the show and putting them out on the table. It's a whole big deal when you got a whole bunch of cages. But I'm really looking forward to the point where we're doing shows, because that means I get to have a shirt with the name of my company on it. And my personal philosophy is, if you have a shirt with the name of your company on it, you're somebody.
I got an idea.
What?
I got an idea, Paul.
Oh, go ahead.
How about you send me one of your nicest racks, and I'll bring it to the White Plains show whenever I go.
We talked about that before, but you passed me off to the other guy, and I never heard back from that guy. Nice guy, though. Mario. What's his name?
Oh, Mario. Yeah. Well, Mario.
Yeah.
Did you contact him?
Yeah.
Oh, he might be too busy. I'll get on him. He's got like a million things going on, so don't take it personally.
He does a lot of shows. I'd like to get hooked up with him, but yeah, I would not be averse to doing that whatsoever.
Yeah, that's cool.
What do you think we can do for more exposure? I mean, exposure costs money.
Right. It's advertising. I'd like people to see what you're building, and there's like a tactile thing to it, like when you get to see it in person and touch it and pull out that drawer, and you know what I mean. It's like
it's a whole different thing. It's just like a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I hear you. I mean, it's just easier to sit home and post ads.
Yeah. Well, these are elite racks, and they should be showing off like elite racks. You should roll out the red carpet for these things.
Well, I think once we come rolling in with our product, it's the whole place is going to absolutely fall silent, I'm sure. No, I think it'd be pretty pretty impressive being rolled into a room, But we're just not there yet. We're a small company, and we're growing, and we're really focusing on just putting out the absolute best product we possibly can, because in a year or two from now, after we've come out with a lot of these innovations we've been kind of talking about, I'm not really telling you much about what they are because I don't want anybody stealing my ideas. We're going to be doing some things that have never been done before, and I really, by the time I'm done, I'm going to be able to. I'm almost there, not quite. I need just a little bit more time, but I will be able to say I make the best reptile cage, or I want to be able to say, at least in my opinion, I make, or my company makes, the best reptile cages on the planet. We may be all broke doing it. I don't know. I don't care. I really don't. I tithe at church. I don't have to worry about finances. And so my finances have kind of watched over, I guess. And ever since I started doing that, I haven't had one financial worry since then, and my company's flourishing. But yeah, and I just. That's our passion, We want to innovate. We want to have kick-ass cages, whether we make a lot of money or not. I think we're going to make some money because these aren't cheap, and I don't know. I don't like giving my stuff away, but I don't like anybody walking away feeling like I would have taken their last dime from their mother either. And I've done business with people like that, and I don't like it. And
that is a fair balance.
Very generous.
What's that? Yeah, and I said there's a fair balance in business like that, and if you can find that balance, I mean, you want to be appreciated.
We've all done business with people that every time you do business with them, you feel like you got snooked. You got to go home and take a shower. I just don't want to be that guy. That's not what it's all about to me. And I selling a hard good is much different from selling a reptile, because when you're selling a reptile, people are calling you and they're kind of excited about that thing. They really want it. They're buying cages because they have to.
Yeah.
Some of them are smart enough to say, something? Well, my philosophy is if you're going to be successful with any kind of animal, and not just reptiles or amphibians, but saying it could be held with birds or gorillas or butterflies. If you're going to be successful with animals, you're going to have two things firmly in place. And if you don't have them in place, you're not going to be successful. Or it's going to be, something's going to fall apart at some point. Number one is your husbandry practices. Now, we can help you out with that, too, because I've been around a long time, and we're going to be doing a whole bunch of YouTube videos about care, kind of going back to the content marketing I was talking about earlier. We're making the content really, really exceptional. And the other thing you have to have firmly in place, or you will fail, is you have to have good facilities. Some people are smart enough to realize that, and some people realize that spending good money after bad is not a wise move. It's really, I don't mean that as a pitch for my company, but as a pitch, if you will, for people spending good money in facilities. Because not only do you need it to be successful, it makes your life one hell of a lot nicer. Pardon my French, but it really, really does.
And to have a nice uniform appearance in your reptile room is important. If everything's all
your productivity actually goes up.
Right. It's like a feng shui thing. I mean, I've seen some of these guys on YouTube. They post their videos of their reptile rooms, and they got mismatched stuff all over the place. It's a big jumbled up mess, and I'm like, oh my God, how could you even work in that room?
And I guarantee you, if you go back through the guy's past, the person's past. There'll be cases where this reptile died just suddenly, just weird. I don't know. This one died that I'm not even going to tell you about because I forgot to give it water for 3 weeks. Just stuff like that. All kinds of stuff like that happened on those hodgepodge. And I remember when I was a kid, I was also into aquariums, and I read once that in some old book, a guy walks into this aquarium keeper that really had their stuff together. And they said the rows, everything was perfect. Everything was just like the other thing, and everything was uniform. And the productivity of that place was off the charts. And it's the same thing with reptile keeping.
If you don't want to go into a room because it's too messy, you're not going to work in that room. If you don't want to Like, if you don't enjoy being in that room, you're not going to get anything done. And in this kind of thing, your animals are going to suffer. You want to.
That's one of the reasons why I'm. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Paul.
No, that's one of the reasons why I really don't like black cages and racks. And I don't mean to offend anybody or anything, but from my standpoint, granted, my material only comes in white, but I wouldn't build it out of black if it did come in that, because I don't believe in it, because it's harder to see mice and stuff like that. But the other thing is, when you have a room full of black stuff, it's really dark. It's really hard on your eyes. You go walking into a herp room that's full of this white stuff, very, very professional, very, very clean, very, very crisp. It's a whole different world. And it's a world you want to be in. And it kind of goes back to
go.
Huh?
Right? I mean, as far as the animals go, I mean, in a lot of these rack systems, there's no built-in lights. So, I mean, even though some of these species are nocturnal, I think they benefit from having a lighter environment. I mean, we're giving them hide boxes inside their cages anyway. So I think the black racks are great in some cases, and I'm sure they work fine. I mean, I like the white myself, and I think it's going to be a person's taste that decides that factor. But I think from that perspective, having a white cages actually is better, because the animals, more light is in there, and it's not absorbing the light. It's not diffusing it. I mean, and then if they need a hide, you put a hide box in there. So it's not like the tub itself is a whole hide. I mean, Paul, let me just ask you this. I've seen a lot of racks that have tubs that aren't even opaque. They're just solid color. I mean, these animals live in complete darkness all the time. I mean, is that good?
No, it's not, because all living things need a light and dark cycle.
Right.
I mean, if you look at it, the more we get away from the way, and I don't mean to make this a religious thing, but the way God designed it is we have light and dark. We need it as human beings, just as animals do. You're talking to a guy who used to breed Australian dwarf monitors, and one of the big breeders of the time said, keep your lights on 24/7, and we did that and everything else, but kind of went through that phase. I believe they do need a light and dark cycle just to. You could probably be successful with it, but if you're really talking long-term success and really the benefit of the animal and the health of the animal, and from a business standpoint, maybe you could replace that animal and many, many times over with what you would have spent on electricity to keep them lit. But my thing is, if your animal is really, really healthy and it's being able to experience some of its natural behaviors, let's say, you're going to just have more success with that animal. And more than that, you're going to get a lot more enjoyment out of it. The bottom line is, if you don't enjoy it, it's not worth doing. It really isn't. And I have always found, I've been into collections that would have had killer animals, but horrible facilities. I was there maybe a half hour. That's it. I just don't even want to look anymore. And I've been in collections that had really, really nice facilities, but really not all that great animals. And I walk out with a lot more respect for the guy with the facilities than I do for the guy that has a great animal and no facilities, to speak of. So spending good money, and you'll spend good money on my stuff, by the way. It's not that expensive, but it's not cheap at all. It's really, I can make a very, very strong argument that in my products, and I'm kind of feeling like a commercial here, but when you buy my products, you're actually getting more value for every dollar spent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because, it may cost 20 or 30 or 40% more than somebody else, but if it's a much, much, much better cage, then you're actually spending dollars more wisely.
And just in the energy efficiency alone, I mean...
but that's not all I had in mind. But that helps too. But I mean,
I'm going to get that plan.
If for nothing, that it's really nice to have nice facilities.
Yeah,
it really is, as opposed to cheap junk stuff. And I believe me, I've had everything. And I've built out of every material you could possibly build stuff out of, and this solid color plastic is the way to go. The only thing that's better than this, quite frankly, is fiberglass. And sometimes there have been people that I've known, the guy that puts on the expo down in Daytona, Wayne Hill, at one point in time in his herp room had a whole bunch of fiberglass cages made. They had to make a mold. It's very expensive, and there's no way to put them in a rack. They're not very there's a lot of problems with manufacturing that and bringing it to market, but the inside surface of those cages are superior to anything, even mine. But it's just not a practical way to go about building cages, but fiberglass would be the best material. But while on the subject, let me also, if you've got a bunch of new listeners here, the worst material that you can ever make a cage or rack out of is melamine.
Really?
You know what melamine is?
I made a lot of my racks out of melamine.
Yeah, I mean that's the worst material you could ever make your rack out of.
Really? Why do you say that?
Oh God. Well, that film that is on the outside of it, the white stuff, that's hair thin, and it'll slow down moisture certainly to a great degree, I guess, but it's not. It's permeable, and moisture sooner or later gets in it. Now, if you're keeping leopard geckos, which are primarily a desert species more than anything else, much more so than a tropical species, or corn snakes or something like that, they're going to last a lot longer than if you keep, tropical stuff in it. But still in all, it'll swell. I know a guy who built a whole room out of this stuff for croc monitors in his basement once. Oh, my God, it lasted less than a year. Yeah, because one mark you put on that stuff, and it just goes to, they make it out of basically sawdust. That is.
It's heavy as hell, too.
Oh, God, yeah. Not even mentioning how heavy this stuff is. Oh, my God, it's horrible. It's horrible heavy.
I know. Yeah, well, one of my goals is to upgrade to good racks, and I'll definitely be getting yours if I do. I like yours the best. And a lot of people are trying to build their little operations, and of course cost is an issue, and there certainly was.
You really got to look at what do I really need in a way of a rack. And it probably, unless you're a big, huge breeder, it probably isn't as much as you think. It probably wouldn't cost you as much as you think. And, what was that saying? A cynic knows the price of everything, the value of nothing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, not too many big breeders buy this product, because if you're really decking out a big room, it would be rather expensive. But most people aren't the biggest breeders in the world.
Right. Well, mid-sized guys and gals.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's perfect for like mid-sized breeders. Like
and something. Most of the people that I sell to be honest with you, are people who are not the big breeders, not the big names, but they've got a nice little operation. They're dealing with stuff that they really love to do, and if I'm going to spend $10,000-$15,000 and deck out my little herp room, what the hell?
Right.
It'll be the last time I ever have to spend it.
Right, and I'm sure the resale value on some of these racks is still going to be good. Even if some people get in.
I've never seen any. I'm not so sure that I've ever seen any on King Snake for sale.
Well, not yet. You're relatively new, but I'm saying, some of these guys only get into it for a couple of years and decide it's not for them, and then they post all the racks for sale, and I'm sure they're still going to hold their value too, because they're making.
I think this industry is kind of going through a thing like that. I remember years ago we had a big thing, and everybody was breeding, and there were so many babies of everything that. This was many years ago. And a lot of people got out of it. It kind of cleaned house. And a few years later, all these babies are really expensive now because nobody's breeding them anymore.
And,
the market right now is not the best.
That's what's happening. A lot of people that got into this for the money are getting out. And those of us that can endure and last may, depending on the economy, we'll see. Nobody can predict the future. But if you can stick with it and endure, and maybe there'll be something better down the line. I mean, a lot of people got into it for the wrong reasons, and we've seen the prices drop on different things. But once all that dust settles, I think there'll be another upswing. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Well, I think a lot of people are getting more into what they really were into it originally. Myself, I'm a classic example. I got into it because I loved emerald tree boas and blood pythons. Well, guess what? I'm getting back into emerald tree boas and blood pythons. You know, and Amazon tree boas, things that I was into 30 years ago. You know, my original things that I really, really, really like. And I think there's a lot more people doing that. I mean, I'm getting a lot more requests for really custom big units that have control panels on them and all kinds of stuff like that. And so we're doing a whole bunch of stuff like that now, too. Yeah, one guy's got a Lamborghini and Boland's pythons all over the place. And, you know, a lot of people that are out there that are like that have money, actually. You know, we are a higher-end product. And we know we're not going to – I'm sorry?
There's celebrities getting involved in this. There's always been some celebrities and people out there, and I have a couple customers that are B-list celebrities, more or less. And
really,
you know, they bought a couple nice geckos and stuff like that. And I don't talk about who they are because, you know, one of them made me sign a confidentiality agreement. Believe it or not, I was dealing with their agent or somebody that did that for them, whatever. Really? And, yeah. But it's interesting though, because you know, if we can get herpetoculture out into the world of celebrities, and maybe some of these celebrities will start promoting herpetoculture positively, that's going to be a big win for us, I think. And you know, that's where we need a good celebrity spokesperson. That's exactly what we need. And we don't have that yet.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I can see where the industry would really, really benefit from that right now. Because, you know, the recession started in 2008, and here we are in 2014. It's still on, and, you know, I think a lot of this has just been so saturated. You know, there's so many people breeding ball pythons these days. You go to the show, that's all you see. You hardly ever even see colubrid breeders, hardly.
I know. Not too many.
You know?
And the price of colubrids is way down. You know, my friend Blake does a really good business. He's got some good contacts, and he breeds some amazing colubrids, and he does pretty well.
Cool.
But a lot of guys are not doing good out there. You know, it's it's a shame. It's a shame. The animals are beautiful. I mean, a beautiful Okatee corn snake should not be going for $15. I mean, seriously. I mean, something like that should be at least worth $50, in my opinion. But I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
you know, there's a lot happening in our industry right now, but, you know, there's also companies like me out there trying to innovate things and bring some new stuff out, and I think that's pretty good. I think there's a lot happening. I think it's good. I mean, I think this industry is going through a little bit of a house cleaning.
Yeah, and
it's nice to see the cages that you're building. It's kind of you know, the next step in the evolution of racks and cages.
Exactly.
It seems like anything else, you know, the market kind of gets stagnant, and with the amount of time that herpetoculture has been, you know, evolving in this country, it's kind of time for the next step, and it seems like you're the one who's making that next step. It's a conversation that Dave and I have had before, and that's why, you know, we're happy to have you on the show.
Wow, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that.
No problem, and that's, you know, something else we look forward to talking about more in the future. We'd love to have you back, and you know, and let us know when you got some more models and stuff that you're pumping out, and we'd love to talk more about it.
Cool, man. I'll do anything for a
Hey, Paul. Yeah, Paul, we're coming to the end of the show. Why don't you take this time to leave us with any closing remarks, and also to give out your information so folks can find you out there online.
Okay. Well, just to kind of recap everything, the website is www.protekcaging.com. and that's Protek. Stands for professionalism and high technology. And we're in this business because I believe every herper deserves good housing, and I believe the animals do too. And we're in this business so that we can make not the cheapest. We're not out to mass produce things. We're out to make really, really good quality stuff for not only the animals, but for also the keeper, because that is really, really important. That's why I like cages that are a foot off the ground. I know, you can get another cage down there, but, it's kind of going beyond that, and sometimes less is more. And, it gets me out of the bed in the morning knowing that I'm working on something that's never been built before, lighted racks and all kinds of stuff like that. And we're gonna give this industry a shakeup here in the next year or two. We're going to be coming out with a lot of stuff, and I hope it goes well.
Well, I'm sure we hope we can help you.
Well, I hope so, man. I really appreciate being on the show, and I hope we've given a few gems to a few people, maybe some new people who are just coming up and just learning how to keep herps. If I'm always available, you can go on the site and get a hold of me, or give me a call. No one calls anymore. Everybody always just texts or emails. But if you ever want to talk herps, you need some advice on how to keep a herp, or what you would keep a herp in, or what I would recommend keeping a herp in, I've got enough experience to be able to handle that, I think. And we stand behind our products 100%. We're getting products.
Awesome.
We're getting products out the door pretty fast. Was a big problem of ours in the past, but that's been corrected, and the product has taken just leaps and bounds, as the company has since the Australian deal came on, and they're going to have another order coming in January. So things are rolling, man. Things are rolling all over the place, and doing some good breeding on the side too. So getting back into that at the same time, building up a collection with my son, and he's into venomous, but I'm into breeding some of these pure Darwin albino carpet pythons. Man, they're awesome. Oh, God, they are so cool. And I hatched out some albino blood pythons for the first, and they're not even worth anything anymore, but I just dig the hell out of them. So, if you have anybody that has any questions, send them along. You don't have to be buying something to ask a question. So, if it's not right for you, it's not right for you, but we should love to have you as a customer.
Awesome. Well, Paul, we'll certainly have you back in 2015, and we'll see what kind of progress you're making. And thank you very much for coming on.
Fantastic. Anytime. I work cheap. 6-pack of beer, I'm good for about 2 hours.
Okay, cool.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
All right, guys.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Take care. All right.
Bye-bye.
One last thing, folks. Paul is giving a special discount to Gecko Nation radio listeners. Anybody that spends $1,000 or more with him will get $100 off by mentioning his appearance on Gecko Nation Radio. Okay, so keep that in mind, folks. If you want to treat yourself to something really nice for your animals and for yourself in the future. And I believe I think he's giving that, let's see, that's going to be good for a while. I'm trying to think how long he wanted to give that for. Hold on. I'll come back and after the break, and I'll down somewhere. I'll come back and tell you exactly how long that offer is good for. But hey, Tim, thank you very much for co-hosting tonight, and looking forward to next week's show for the holiday bash and our anniversary.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show. I look forward to it, and have a good evening. All right, Dave?
Okay, cool. I'll talk to you during the week, bud. Thanks, Tim.
All right, bye.
Bye now. All right, folks, going to go ahead and play the outro, and I'll be right back with my closing remarks, and we'll play a really cool song. Hang tight.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David Fine Gecko's creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. The jazz music you heard tonight was generously donated and created by Jeremy Turgeon of J&D Reptiles. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for the great musical pieces. You can check out Jeremy at J&D Reptiles on YouTube and on Facebook. And a very special thank you to our news anchor, graphic designer, and audio tech, Steve Barker. All the graphics, audio sponsor plugs, and music overlays were assembled by Steve. Check out Steve on YouTube at BC Barker Creations. He has some terrific videos for the herp community with amazing geckos and snakes. Please support the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance and USARC. Gecko Nation Radio is proud to support both of these organizations. Please donate to USARC so that they have the funds needed to legally protect pet owners' rights nationwide. You can donate to the USARC Legal Defense Fund at www.usarc.org. If you would also like to learn about advocacy and how you can take action on a state and local level, please subscribe to the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance newsletter and blog at www.usherp.org.
Alrighty. Okay, yes, folks, about that discount from Protek Aging. Paul is offering $100 off to anyone that mentions Gecko Nation Radio to him with any order over $1,000 or $1,000 or over. He says or thereabouts, so it can be give or take $1,000. And it's good for a whole month from today. So today's the 7th till January 7th. Okay? So take advantage, folks. You can put an order in and get a $1,000 rack or a couple racks and save $100. It might be worth it for you. And you'll be getting some of the best racks being made today. Before I go up my closing remarks, I just wanted to say I love you, Elsa. I hope you have a good night. Elsa's one of our hardcore. I think she's the show's biggest fan, and she's always here. And love Elsa. She's like the cornerstone to Gecko Nation Radio in a lot of ways. So thank you, Elsa, for being such a great fan. And closing remarks are this. I really like the show tonight. I really like what Paul's doing with his racks. I'm the type of person that can certainly appreciate, things that are built well and constructed well. And for the new folks out there are definitely products that are better than others. There's definitely things out there that are safer than others. If you know anything about me, you see me online all the time promoting FlexWatt and trying to teach people, especially new folks out there, what makes it the best choice for us, in not only in energy efficiency but in safety. It really is that we can use statistically, and just the one that invented heat tape and just continues to blow the competition away as far as efficiency and safety, and just it's got all these different certifications. It's made here in America. It's got all these things that you just want from an electrical product. And I am a broken record because I'm so passionate about it. And it's just a product that I love so much that I basically am just thrilled to have them offer me a job as a representative for them, for FlexWatt. It's just, it's a dream come true for me. So it's a product that basically built this reptile industry. And it's definitely one that I stand behind, and a lot of the people in the community know the benefits of it and stand behind it too. And it's just good stuff. So just want to thank all the listeners who tuned in tonight and continue to support Gecko Nation Radio. I think having things like this, positive shows, and I think people that are positive in the community is what keeps the glue to this community strong. And I think that's so important, especially in uncertain times and times where it's stressful. Negative Nellies, I call them. I hope some of these folks become a little more enlightened and try to get a little more positive and try to help the community and do positive things. Because I think as a community, if we can all become a little bit more positive and just be kinder to each other, I think we can all succeed more. And I think we can all do better. I understand the divide and conquer tactics in a lot of things, and I don't think we should fall into that. I think we should all unite more and just be kind to each other. Just be nice. That's it. Treat each other with mutual respect. You don't even have to be nice. Just be respectful of each other. And we see a lot of things online that aren't always like that, and I'd like to see that change. And I hope some of you guys can hear that and maybe take that to heart. All right. That's it for tonight. Looking forward to next week's show. And should have some really cool people calling in, and we invite all of you guys to call in and talk, answer some questions, talk about some different, issues or anything you guys want to talk about, any cool topics that you guys will think are appropriate. And that's it. All right, everybody, I'm going to play a cool song. But first, just want to mention our amazing sponsors. Of course, Dale's Bearded Dragons is the #1 biggest reptile supply distributor at all of the Northeast Expos, ranging from Maryland to New Hampshire. And just great people, great business to deal with. They're at all the shows on the East Coast, so check them out. Dale's Bearded Dragons, also Dale'sBeardedDragons.com. Excuse me. AB Dragons is the king of dubia roaches. Use the code GECKO, all in caps, at checkout and get your 5% off from Gecko Nation Radio. GeckoBoa.com, that's John Scarborough. He's a master of wild types here in America, and does a great job with the different subspecies of leopard gecko, and also a bunch of other rarer types that he's working with. And, of course, just amazing leopard geckos. John Scarborough, GeckoBoa.com. Supreme Gecko. Supreme Gecko is Wally Kern, and he's definitely working on some great projects, all kinds of stuff, from cresties to micro geckos, and he was on last week's show. So check out Supreme Gecko, doing some cool stuff. All right, Tad Uncapper from Ohio Gecko, also the owner of GeckoForums.net, working on some great tangerines, really cool geckos, good lines, good guy to deal with, and definitely check out Gecko Forums if you want some good information. Rainbow Mealworms, that's your source for your feeders. Great source for mealworms, supers, wax worms, whatever you need. Check out rainbowmealworms.net. Julian Spence is awesome to deal with. She's a pillar in the community. Rainbow Mealworms. Reptiles Express, if you're shipping animals anywhere in America and you want to do it legally and do it with a company that has the best customer service for your FedEx labels, use reptilesexpress.com. Ask for Debbie Price, and she will teach you how to do it if you're not familiar with shipping. Ron Tremper. Ron Tremper is the king of leopard geckos, or the godfather, as we affectionately call him. And Ron Tremper's given us the bandit, emerines, all kinds of tangerines, tangelos, Tremper albino stuff. And he works with snakes and stuff. He's really just an amazing person in our industry. And you can check out his apps. He's got Leopard Gecko Pro, Leopard Gecko Care. And if you can find his book, it's out of print, but it is the best leopard gecko book out there. It's hard to find these days. We talked a little bit about it early on, but I'm sure he'll write another one in a year or two. So check out leopardgecko.com. And last but not least, Mr. Darryl Burton from Longhorn Geckos. Darryl and his Kate son are working on some amazing leopard geckos and are new breeder on the scene, and they have a Facebook page called Longhorn Geckos, and they're going to have a website soon, I'm sure. So check them out and give them a like, and keep an eye on their page. Great bandits, great pastel raptors, tangelos, super tangelos, all kinds of cool stuff. Great genetics.